Hello and welcome back to IndieCent. Catchy tagline. We're still working on that.
We'll get there.
We will. Anyways, it's your usual cast today. Myself, Dark. We have Danni here,
Yellow.
and and you've also heard Elmo speak.
Hello.
Today we will be since we looked at Danny's choice last time and I want to get us back on track. I went ahead and picked our game for this episode. Elmo will pick the next one, and then we will do a special episode where we each pick one short game to look at. For today, we'll be looking at Technobabylon, a game by Wadjet Eye Games, a very significant group in the point-and-click adventure genre. But before we get to that, let's go around the table and see what everyone's been playing lately. You want to start us off, Danni?
Sounds good. I have been splitting my time between two games right now. Well, three actually. But most of my time lately has been spent in Breath of the Wild, which is fantastic. I love it. It's.
I keep hearing people talk about that one to this day. Didn't they make recent updates?
Yes, the DLC, the first DLC pack, because there are going to be two, released a couple days ago. The first DLC pack's it adds a bunch of challenges to boost up the Master Sword, and added some features like a super hard mode and a couple costumes. And the second DLC pack coming in later in the year is going to be actual story updates. But yeah,
story updates. I'm guessing it's going to be side content.
Yeah, they haven't really said anything about it other than the name, which is just the Champions song, and the champions in the game are the Gerudo, the Rito, the Zora, and the I can't remember what the rock people are called. Goron. And the Goron that
Gorgons.
Yeah, that pilot these divine beasts against
They're
Ganon.
starving because they don't have enough rocks.
But they were all killed by Ganon 100 years ago, and but they don't actually know they haven't actually said anything about what the story is going to be aside from that it's called the Champions song. So I'm interested in finding out about that because I really love the Champions. The memories we see of them, they're really fun and cute. But yeah, the game's great.
It'd be nice if they one of the DLC stories explain where this fits in the Zelda timeline, so the nerds won't start making this a thing in the Discord soon.
Yeah, I feel like I heard it's. I completely forgot what I'd heard it might be, but it's very unclear. Just because apparently Wind Waker is oh yeah, the Ritos, or the Loftwings, I guess they were called then. They evolved from the Zoras, but there are Zoras and Ritos in this game. It's weird. It's very unclear where this fits in the timeline, but the timeline's kind of bullshit anyway, so.
I think they just made it to get nerds to just shut up.
Absolutely. But I've never been a huge Zelda fan. I never played any of the games as a kid, for whatever reason. I played in middle school. We had Wind Waker, and I'd play it, but we didn't have a memory card for a GameCube, so I'd just play the first couple hours of it, and get stuck and stop. And then the next day, I'd boot up, play the first 3 hours again, and never get past it. And in college, I played more Wind Waker HD on the Wii U, but the digital copy I had was fucking buggy as hell, and it would crash at the same point in every time I played, so I just stopped. So the only Zelda game I've actually beaten to date is Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, which is great. But this one,
I've only beaten Wind Waker, and I had to get a lot of help from another kid out of daycare to get through Link's Awakening DX.
hmm,
Those two are the only Zelda games I genuinely like, except maybe Oracle. Was it Ages or Seasons? I don't remember which one is more puzzle focused because the combat focused one is stupid.
hmm. So like I've
I
never,
think it's
I,
Capcom made some Game Boy Color games in the past, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. They were connected, and once you beat both, you get codes to unlock the true story. But the difference between them is one was focused on puzzles, and the other one was focused on combat in a 2D Zelda game on a Game Boy, so the combat was terrible.
hmm.
Neither of them were focused on being a good game.
Oh no, one of them was good.
Yeah,
Eh,
Breath of the Wild, unlike
Well, to
those
be fair,
games.
I'm not a big fan of Zelda in general. If you get me started on Twilight Princess, we'll be here forever.
Yeah,
that was the best game.
I'm like the
The
same.
tutorial went on for 3 hours, and it kept telling me basic functions.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. I
Yeah,
love it when
I'm
games take 3 hours to tell you the controls. That's my favourite thing.
yeah, I'm like the same
Oh, what
way.
else have you been playing, Danny?
Just I guess a little more about Breath of the Wild. I've There aren't a lot of Zelda games I really want to play. This is one of the few ones besides Majora's Mask that I actually like. Am like I
Oh,
want to play
Majora's
this
Mask
game.
is really good. I've played a bit of it, but I had to, well, like when I was around friends.
hmm And so this game, like I'm loving this game. It's still like I know it's like probably a lot of people's game of the year so far. It's not really mine, just because Nier Automata, I don't think anything's gonna top that. And like Persona 5 is firmly like right below Nier Automata for me. My only big gripe about Breath of the Wild is the side quests are just boring and feel really inconsequential. You don't really get good rewards, and there's no like actual cool storylines involved with the side quests or what feels like new content. It's just like get this thing for me from a random villager, and they're like, "Oh, thank you for getting this thing. Here's 50 rupees." And like after,
Yeah, I could see that happening since it's an open world game, but it's not an RPG, so you don't even get experience for your work.
yeah, so like after playing Nier Automata earlier this year, which is like almost nearly every side quest, not everyone, there are some losers in there, but the side quests in that game are just fantastic, and they have like I think a side quest is good based on the reward it gives, and the reward doesn't have to be like a good item or like a good payout, but it can just be like a good storyline. I consider that a good reward for a side quest. And Nier Automata had great storylines involved that all like supported the main one and some that like foreshadowed endings and twists later on. It was like super good and just all it supported its world very well. And these are just kind of like tick boxes to keep you busy while you're running around, and I don't like that. That's my main problem. So like I'm not going to spend like the hundreds of hours I've heard other people in because basically what I'm just trying to do is get the bits of story content I can and like see the world and then be like, okay, now to beat the game and be done with it. Because it's fun, but
Oh, what else have you been playing?
what else I've been playing? I've been playing ARMS on the Switch, which I don't have much to say about that. It's a lot of fun. Good game.
What about the one that? What about the slime guy with teeth?
He's I not I haven't found playing him very much fun, just because everyone has their sort of gimmick, and I he's kind of a
Why does
slower
he have
character for
teeth?
me. I don't know why he has teeth. But like I asked a friend of mine, why does
All
he have
right.
teeth?
Any,
And so she photoshopped him without teeth, and it looked worse.
it was worse.
He was just like a sex doll. Like well, oh mouth. It was worse somehow. But Arms is fun. I play a lot of Kid Cobra because he's fast and agile, and I like those characters in fighting games. And aside from that, the only other thing I've played is Yakuza 5 because I really want to play a Yakuza game. can't afford Zero right now. And I'm like, fuck it, I got this one for free in PS Plus. I'm so lost in the story, but I just want to play a Yakuza game. And it's
Yeah, I would say that because as the guy who's played the first Yakuza games, you could get lost minutes into the second one just
Mhm.
if you've never played the first.
mhm.
And I can't imagine how complicated it gets by 5, because like 4 introduces the regular 4-man protagonist
Mm.
group, and then there's Yakuza the Dead in there, which brings back characters from Yakuza 2 and 1.
Dead
And
Souls.
like Yakuza 3 has some sort of side plot with the FBI,
hmm
and it just gets really convoluted.
Yeah, I watched a playthrough of Zero, so I'm most familiar with the storyline in that game. But yeah, between 0 and 5, I don't know anything that happens pretty much, and so I'm just lost in the story trying to figure it all out. But also, it's just a fun ride
Oh,
anyway.
fun fact for Yakuza 2. There's a character you can fight who wears a mask at all times. This character is voiced by Suda51.
No.
Oh, that's perfect. But yeah,
Fun Yakuza fact. I played it for 3 hours and I didn't see a single yak.
Oh,
Speaking
Okay.
of which, what have you been playing, Elmo?
Okay, I finished Splinter Cell Conviction and God of War 2. I could start talking about the pacing problems I had with God of War 2, but at some point we have to talk about Technobabylon, so we probably should just skip that.
I will defend some of the pacing issues in God of War 2 because I get what they were going for, like trying to highlight how pointless everything Kratos was doing by the end of it with this one shocking moment. But yeah, it does go on a bit too long with nothing happening.
Yeah, I would say trying to highlight how pointless everything is. That's a good way of putting the downsides. But
Yeah, that's actually the big running thesis of 3, where the game is just like telling Kratos to go fuck himself constantly.
just like I was. Kratos sucks. Anyway, the big one that I've been playing is Manhunt, which it was kind of surreal to be playing a game that was so incredibly controversial when it came out, and just thinking, this is just an average PS2 game now.
How old is that game?
Oh yes, the original Are You Offended game.
Oh, is it the hatred of its time?
Alright.
But hey, you get to kill Nazis apparently, according to your Twitter.
Oh yeah, you get to kill white supremacists.
Oh,
That's
then
great.
it's not hatred.
That's probably the best level.
I've heard Manhunt 2 really does deserve all the stuff it gets about it. I played a bit of the first Manhunt and I didn't like it because all the systems in it felt wonky as shit.
Imagine Splinter Cell, except you have absolutely nothing to help you with stealth.
It's weird because I played a game with a kind of similar art design and some similar combat mechanics, The Suffering,
Oh yeah.
which is one of my favorite games ever. And if I could just find the right conversion wires or whatever for my Xbox so I can actually play my games on it on my TV without them looking like ass, I will love the second one as well. Like, The Suffering, fantastic. If they ever release that online, I'm definitely going to do an episode on that.
I'm looking at my copy of The Suffering, and now I know what I'm going to play next. Kingdom Hearts.
Oh god, I just remembered how terrible the advertising for The Suffering was. Like, I got a little cardboard cutout on the back of one of the game magazines I bought back in the day, and it just was a picture of a severed human head in a toilet, and under it said The Suffering.
That sounds
Boy,
more
that
like a
took-
kind of constipation medication advert.
It was hard to explain that to my mom.
Oh. But yeah,
Anyways, as for myself, other than a fucking solitary game on my phone that I really need to uninstall, I've just been playing a bit more Mass Effect, and I'm liking it much more now that I figured out you don't have to play strictly Renegade or strictly Paragon, and it's much more fun just to be like a really fucked up human being who does the right thing a lot, but other times just murders. But other than that, I've also been playing a few games for Hardcore Gaming 101 since they need their NES books and missions done soon. So I've played a game called Dragon Fighter, which is a basic side-scrolling beat 'em up, except you can also turn into a dragon at will, and then it becomes a horizontal shoot 'em up. And it's actually really fun, but as expected for an NES game filled with bullshit. I'm playing Worm right now, Worm Journey to the Center of the Earth, and I like that it's trying to do so many things like shoot 'em up segments, regular 2D platforming slash Metroidvania stuff. There's like this conversation slash boss fight thing. It's hard to explain, but all the systems are really wonky. But for like the NES, it's impressive. Oh, and I played Shatterhand, which is really, really, really awesome.
Did you shatter your hand?
For those who don't know, Shatterhand is a game released in the West that was originally based off a Japanese tokusatsu TV show, and then was changed to New York cop gets his arm fucking cut off and gets a robot hand that blows up robots.
So it's basically RoboCop.
No, it's not RoboCop because he's still human. He just has a robot hand and he uses it to punch robots to make them explode.
So it's Bionic Commando.
No, because Bionic Commando doesn't let you punch robots and make them explode. It lets you swing around. The only thing his arm does is let him punch things really, really hard, and it's so fun.
So it's Robo Commando Terminator.
Sure, why not?
Wait.
Oh, I should mention that the made-up story for the Western release sounds eerily similar to the story of Clover Studios' God Hand, which you should also play, which makes me think that entire game was came about primarily from them discovering the story of this game in the West and was like, hey, what if we did that? And God bless them for that. They probably saw the ridiculously terrible box art and said, hey, let's make an entire game that's just that.
Was there a head in the toilet in that one too?
No, thank God.
Good.
Anyways, that should about catch us up to speed. Let's get on to the main event, Technobabylon. I have a bit of a history with the company behind this game, Wadjet Eye Games. They are an indie developer and publisher who have worked on a lot of point and clicks in the recent past. They're notable for the Blackwell series they did about a woman who finds out she's part of a line of psychic detectives who have this one ghost partner who's just some dude from the 1920s who's like a mobster. And they're like very charming games. They have a lot of variety in their presentation. And that's like their main flagship series, but they also do a lot of games with other even smaller developers. So they have a large variety of releases, including a game where you're a Jewish rabbi exploring murders called the Shiva. There's the Golden Wake, which is all about like closed Christian communities in the 1950s, I think. I haven't played that one. There's Resonance, the first one of their games I ever played that blew me away. That's like about this super powerful new technology and these four random people who end up in this conspiracy plot. And it does some really amazing stuff. There's Primordia, a game about machines living in a post-apocalyptic world, trying to figure out what it means to be alive. So, like Near Automata before Near Automata, but not as deep. Shardlight is the most recent one of theirs I've played, which is another post-apocalyptic game, except it's about humans coming to terms with rebuilding the world, and it's all very good stuff. Lots of great voice acting, absolutely fantastic art. The main artist for the group, Ben Chandler, like if you go on his Twitter, he'll have entire threads just about the makeup of single scenes and old point and clicks, showing how they use color contrast and perspective and angles to do different things. And a lot of the single screens you'll put in these games will actually be based on genuine works of arts from like the Renaissance. It's like he made a reference to some sort of painting about the river Styx in Shardlight, and it's a glorious scene. It's just there for one single puzzle. They really care about what they're doing, and this game they made with Technocrat Games, which was originally supposed to be released as an episodic freeware project, is probably their first big budget, and I say that in quotations, game they ever did, mainly because, as the commentary reveals, this is the first game where they had an actual studio to record voice acting instead of just taking everyone to Dave Gilbert's room, which is kind of fantastic. Elmo, what did you think of Technobabylon in the broad terms?
I want to talk about basically the first impressions of cyberpunk, because this is my first real cyberpunk game. And before going into it, I've always thought of myself as a massive fan of cyberpunk. I just love it. Cyberpunk is cyber, is punk. Both of those things are cool. I was just really looking forward to it. And then I started Technobabylon, and then I remembered that the only cyberpunk thing I've ever actually seen in my life is the movie The Fifth Element, which I thought was garbage. So, and then
I'm not sure that counts.
And then I just
Why?
suddenly realised, oh no, I hate
Why?
cyberpunk. Is because I was there's so many different kind of punks, like the clock punk and steampunk and diesel punk. I think Siberia is clock punk, and I really love that. But
yeah, it's definitely clocking gears.
yeah, but I think the only thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way about cyberpunk is that since it's all based so far in the future, it's hard to get a human story that you can connect with when everything's robots and lasers and you can read someone's mind by pointing a pencil at... I'm looking around my room trying to just think of objects that I can fit into futuristic metaphors, and it's not working. But yeah, cyberpunk is kind of hard to get into for me. But once I got over that cyberpunk thing, then Technobabylon, outside of the game that I'm going to pick for us to play next, is definitely the best game I've played this year. And all of my fears were completely wrong. It manages to tell an incredibly human story about, I don't know, just characters and emotions that are understandable, and it's a cool modern setting.
That's a good way to describe Wadjet Eye. Like, the normal way to do things is to base everything in New York, but when they started working with other developers, they basically help rewrite the story they originally written so that it flows better and it has more of a human impact, even in these alien environments.
It's
Go
really
on.
good.
Well,
what were your first impressions, Dan?
I was a little kind of skeptical just because I'm not much into point-and-click adventure games. I've tried to get into them, but they just run kind of slow for me, which is my main issue. A main issue I had with a lot of this game, like, everyone moves so
That's fair.
slow, which isn't even really a problem. It's more an adventure game thing that I don't, it doesn't mesh with me. I tend to like more fast-paced games. But I was
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste or
Hmm.
just
And
something you kind of have to like by default, I guess. I've never been much into point and clicks until very recently. Like I wasn't really like a PC gamer. My main exposure to them was some seventh level game for made for babies on the computer, and then I didn't really get into another one
I've
until I discovered Wadjet Eye and realized, oh, I like this.
yeah, I've tried to get
Oh,
into
and
them and
the
need
Sam and
to
Max
play
games. I
'em.
played
Like
those
what I
on
played with
PC.
Sam and Max, I did like, and I need to play more of those games since I own all three seasons, and as well as Grim Fandango. Um, and there's a point and click game that I did enjoy that I'll
When
probably bring up at some point in the future for this. But aside from that, I haven't really gotten into them, and this one's no exception. I didn't feel like especially thrilled playing it, mostly because I guess the kind of slow paced gameplay combined with slow paced puzzle solving. Because with these types of games, like you really have to kind of go through all your options at some points, trying to figure out what works. And I get tired of that quickly because I'm impatient. So I stuck to a walkthrough for most of this game to try and speed things up. Oh yeah,
you definitely want to avoid
yeah.
older
I've
games
seen.
then because Wadget Eye, yeah, Wadget Eye sticks out because they looked at the
Hmm.
old Moon Logic
Yeah,
design of
I've
every puzzle old ones would make, and were like, no, let's not do that. You can in the commentary, like Dave mentions that he had to get James to simplify a lot of puzzles, like a scene where you end up controlling a drone for a short bit as a little reward was originally like three other mini game puzzles in order to get access to it. uh there was a scene where there were like three extra puzzles in the first part of the game in order to get metal shards, and all this stuff was just like cut out and streamlined, so it actually makes some logical sense on how you get to an answer to a puzzle,
yeah, and I
but
did
they're really good at
appreciate
making
that
it not
they
that
didn't
clear.
do the thing that a lot of adventure games seem to do, where if you just like forgot to get pick something up at some point, that hours later you have no way of solving a puzzle. I appreciate that they didn't have that kind of level of difficulty involved.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but as far as like story goes, I was impressed by how much I enjoyed it. Um, I didn't like find myself kind of scoffing at the story. It started off feeling kind of cheesy and like standard, and some some of the like writing quirks, like just names for things like the trance, or how instead of swearing everyone says nuke it. That was just like that's yo oh
Get
oh.
nuked.
I'm just like
oh, you are
that's
gonna be driven
okay.
crazy by
but
Shadowrun then.
but like the solid like the story itself, the main plot, especially like the last um couple chapters, I thought were such good once everything starts coming together. Uh, though I thought the Mindjacker was severely underused because it kind of like built him up as this big villain from the start, but then he disappears for a lot of it, and when he does come back, he's just like a secondary villain that doesn't get much play and gets kind of unceremoniously put down. I didn't even get like it didn't even give him
I was
a
kind
kind
of
of
surprised.
epilogue
Oh, sorry. You keep
after
going.
you like choose what you want to do with him. It's just like okay, he's done now, and like I wanted to see what would happen to him because that was like because he seemed like a really interesting situation having to keep these types of people in their head and like how it affected him, especially with Baxter. Um, and I'm also curious as to why Baxter affected him the most. But all that being said, I have to admit this game gave me one of my favorite phrases I've heard in a game for a while, which is Texan Warlords.
I was kind of surprised how little the Mindjacker ended up mattering because uh, my experience with the Wadjet Eye games is that even when they have a twist, if there's a nemesis clearly present, you're eventually going to end up having to deal with them at the end. Though they sometimes put a unexpected twist to it, like in Shardlight, I won't spoil what happens, but it seems like they're making out the obvious totalitarian government guy to be the big bad, and he is, but there is a reason he's like that, and you can make sense of his logic. And then there's a last minute reveal of how he ended up like this, and it's actually really affecting and suddenly changes the entire view of the world on you. And I thought
Yeah,
that was really clever. They always do like little things like that. Resonance in particular has one of the best twists I've ever seen in any game ever because oh god, I can't even begin to talk about it because I just give too much away,
yeah, the
but
villain
you
seemed very
really
like
need to play that
under.
game. I guarantee you will not see it
Yeah,
coming.
yeah. The villain seemed a little
Sorry, I'm just
unfortunately
like a really big fan of these
underutilized
guys.
in this game. Like they spent a lot of time fleshing out like the main characters, but like the villains
I
we don't we didn't know much about them and or how they got to the point like why their motivations were like this.
will definitely get more into that in the spoiler section because when I was looking at the credits for the game, I suddenly got what the big twist was, and I don't want to spoil it yet for anyone who doesn't want the game spoiled.
Yeah.
It's amazing how well they hide it in plain
I
sight here.
I had
And I just
uh,
had to look at the
yeah.
credits to figure it out.
Oh, we can get into that in the spoiler section.
Let's see. Oh, go on. All right. Before we continue on, I better explain a few names here. The main four people who worked on this game are Dave Gilbert, the head of Wadjet Eye Games, the main producer. He actually did the voices of those like SWAT grunts, but it's just really digitized, so you can't tell it's him. Ben James Deerin is the guy who's in charge of Technocrat Games, aka he is Technocrat Games. And his commentary was really interesting because he talked about like how the city's based off a real city in France.
Hmm.
It's like the city of Newton the game's based in is actually in Africa of all places. He talks about various little touches you put in the game like the mirror at the restaurant
Yeah, that
being
was something.
offline or a restaurant that serves people and like try and explains why he what sort of commentary he's trying to make because like this game isn't very cyberpunk thematically for a lot of it except in those little touches, and once I realized what he was doing I appreciate it more. The like big star of all these games has always been Chandler, the main artist. Everything you see in this game, even though there was like original 3D art made by James, Ben is responsible for. He like takes these drabs 3D models and makes them like living paintings, all the crazy animations and all that detail. Except the portraits, they always change their portrait artist for every single game. This time they went with a man named someone named Ivan Yanov. I can't pronounce that. Ulyanov. I don't know. And I was also really interested in the commentary from the composer Nathan Allen Pinard, who's a regular for the studio, and he like goes into depth on all the layers he puts in the music, like adding subtle choirs you can't quite hear, or like adding a little chime here and there. The soundtrack to this game is fantastic. Uh, not sorry.
I'm
Danny,
sorry.
curious what you thought of the presentation.
Oh, The art
I'm
was,
curious what
it
you thought of
felt
the
like,
presentation, like the
uh,
art, the music, and all that.
I guess it's hard to judge it just because there were like two resolution settings. One was a window that felt too small, and the other was full screen, which was just like too blown up. Mm-hmm.
I think it's I think it's a problem with the engine they used. It's called a Venture Game Studio, and it's all their games are kind of limited
Mm-hmm.
like that. I haven't figured out if there's a way to put this game in a window or not. But like when I took
Like
screenshots, it was in the
I was able
proper
to get
resolution, and it looked
into a windowed mode,
really
but they only
beautiful.
had like one
But
option,
like
like one resolution option
on
for
full
windowed
screen,
mode. So it was just really small on the
keep
screen
going.
and hard to see. So that kind of bothered me throughout the game that everything just looked too blown up. But as for the art, it wasn't like it wasn't bad art. It just
The
it
only
looked
the only
a
points it
lot like
really
a lot of
oh,
pixel
sorry.
art I've seen in a bunch of stuff. So it didn't stand out too much in my opinion. Uh,
For me, the only parts that kind of bugged me presentation wise were in some of the portraits because
mm-hmm.
the windows are stretched out enough, it looks a little off in tiny ways. And like the character models are pretty basic. The real
Oh yeah,
attraction
the
is the
explosions look terrible
backgrounds,
though.
which are all ridiculously
Like all those,
detailed.
uh, really, I
Not
thought
like
like
the
those
one
explosions looked
section
awful.
where the guys just simulate nuclear
Um,
explosions.
but and I guess a problem I had with the art was,
Oh,
which I don't know if this is just an adventure game thing or maybe just isolated in this game, but it felt hard for me to distinguish some items from like background you can't mess with to like, oh, there's a key item in here. But like it's a in I can't remember where I got the hanger.
oh,
But there
the
were
hanger.
just different points in the game where I'd be like, okay, what do I have to do here? And so I'd finally look it up and it's like, oh, go interact with this object. And I'm like, I haven't seen that object anywhere. And so I have to like run the mouse over the entire screen until I notice like in the corner a bit of text pops up with that name, like, oh, it must be right here. Um, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like a genre thing or like just, but
Welcome to
it
point and
just, I was
click
like, I wish
games.
they'd kind of,
It is.
mm-hmm.
It's called pixel hunting, and
Yeah, I just
will
wish they'd
forever be the reason this genre is never going to be
stand out a
huge.
little more. Like maybe
Like
just
even
a
3D ones
different
have this problem.
color or something, maybe stronger.
I can safely say, having played many, many point and click games, that this one is
Mm,
probably one of the least bad in regards to pixel hunts. There's
Yeah,
so
there's.
many that are so much worse.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like old LucasArts games were pretty bad about that. But like the offshot companies where things just got ridiculous,
Also, I want to know if
especially with
anyone
these
else
items
thought
you had
this,
to get or else you
but
would never go
whenever
through
there
the
was a
game.
profile shot of Charlie Regis, I thought he kind of looked like Richard Nixon. I think it was the nose.
Yeah, I kind of got that.
I thought he was likable, so no, I didn't really see that.
I think everyone's kind of based off someone at some point. I'm trying to.
Oh
I'm getting a
my,
familiar
yeah.
vibe from Step Forward, the robot man,
Oh my,
the guy who
yes.
goes, yes, him. I can't place it. I can't place it,
Kind
but
of
he
looked like
looks very
kind of looked
familiar
like
to
one of
me
those
for some
terrifying
reason.
old
Pee Wee
timey
Herman?
puppets to me.
Maybe.
C3 Pee Wee Herman.
the commentary was really interesting for this game. Like they do it for most every game they release, at least the ones I played, and it gives you a sense of just how much thought and care they put into every single screen. Like I mentioned before, Ben Chandler did an entire screen in Shardlight that's just for a very minor part of the game. That's a direct reference to a famous painting that's showing hell itself, and it's just for like getting to the next area of a building, and that's all it's for. There's no reason to put in that much effort, but he did it, and the game was better for it. And that seems to be like a running theme Technobabylon 2, because there's just a lot of things they didn't have to do with the environment, a lot of stuff that doesn't really add to your goal, but it's there and it fills out the world, like at the plant lab with all the things just going on that are just so unnecessary to get past it. Like the boxes being moved around by robot hands when you find the body, all the details with all the little plants growing everywhere. That also reminds me that I really like how the game combines traditional cyberpunk looking stuff and uses this futuristic setting to show that man still creates and takes care of nature within their own structures, and it's like it gives a lot of visual contrast to other parts of the game that it really needed. Kind of curious, what were your favorite areas of the game?
Oh man, art-wise, it kind of it's all just one big product. I can't. All of the big standout moments I can think of, then it's mainly moments in the story or moments when there's some. I don't want to say animation because that sounds weird, but some of the more shocking jumps in story. And
I think
like that time you light the guy on fire.
Oh yeah, that's.
I think the factory.
He was just doing his job.
I think the factory is the best area in the game.
Or that time you drugged that one guy.
Oh yeah.
Or that time you Oh yeah, the factory is great. Oh, or that time you're on the airship and you
that was radical.
Use a nail gun to murder a guy in a completely different room by shooting a
Speaking
nail
of which,
wall, and it cuts out.
Speaking of which,
spine.
with that moment, I was looking at the
screenshots
for the game on Steam a few minutes ago, and I noticed there's one screenshot that takes place from a moment where Regis is talking to Lau in the medical lab.
What's the screenshot?
And it would be after Regis had shot the guy in the head, and he'd be collapsed on the ground with blood on the floor. But in the screenshot, he's just standing there. The guard's just still alive, standing there, watching these people he's meant to kill, just standing there talking to each other.
Oh, I guess this is all good.
I know that you already brought it up, Dark, but just that moment when you're in a restaurant and there's a big electronic mirror, but because all of the systems are down, instead of it just being a mirror, it just says there's just a big error sign, and if you inspect it, then Reed just says, this mirror appears to be defective. And I just thought, I know that feel, Reed, just... Yeah. It was like Technobabylon, it really spoke to me, you know?
The one Elmo took.
What screenshot?
Of that moment. I did like the whole restaurant investigation bit. I thought that was fun when you had the list of suspects, and you just had to go and narrow them all down.
That was great.
Based on just.
Apparently, they kept it in because Dave was just a really big fan of the segment and thought it gave something extra for Regis to do.
Mm-hmm.
and tied up some loose ends in the story that aren't really addressed later on.
I like how I've played all the Walking Deads. Ugh. I've played Life is Strange. I've played... What other games are there that have, like, strong moral choices in them? Basically just The Walking Dead and Life is Strange. I guess...
Well, there's RPGs if you want to get into
yeah.
it. Like, there's going to be a lot of those in the Shadowrun games we will eventually get to. BioWare games have some of that, but then they also have choices where either you help someone or punch them in the face or murder them. And and then there's Tyranny, which I really want us to look at one day, except it costs way too much money, and it may also be far too close to real life because it's all about living in a horrifying totalitarian regime, except magic, and it's pretty messed up.
But yeah, there's a moral choice at the end of the restaurant investigation that I probably won't get into detail into yet. But this is probably the first game I've played where I actually did spend a lot of time thinking, wow, did I do the right thing there? Or did I... Oh, I think I... No, I definitely didn't. Or did I? No, I didn't.
I thought about it for 5 seconds and then remembered.
I went with what I thought Regis would do.
Before, and then I thought, okay, he dies.
Yep.
It was...
Yeah, that's the thing, because I was thinking I'm playing this game as Regis, I'm going to do what Regis would do. But then, like, the bit that made me question it is, no direct spoilers, but you have the choice between find the guy who did the crime, or pin it on a guy who didn't do the crime, but is a completely irredeemable human being, and it's just a giant sack of garbage trash that's on fire. And...
Putting it lightly.
Yep.
It's like either kill Obama or Donald Trump, basically.
Oh... Too soon, especially after Donald Trump's recent death by the time this episode goes out. Why do you think Lamar really took time off the show? I didn't say that. That was a joke. You can't pin it on him. He's innocent.
Oh, there's a lot of, like, great touches in this game's world. Like, remember that whole sequence where you find out a guy got a Trojan horse?
That's my favorite.
So now it's trying to ship him off to China as slave labor. Oh, I have a screenshot
here. That's my
here.
favorite. That you can... in this world, you can get just malware inside your head that just takes control of your entire body and forces you to work in sweatshops. Don't mention Sheffy.
Oh, remember Sheffy?
You give the poor Sheffy.
Yeah, they mentioned Sheffy a lot in like some of the early commentary, and that they got this one actress who did this really annoying cartoon.
Sheffy was
like,
the true
okay,
villain.
You're playing this character without a second thought.
No.
She got...
Sheffy likes to help.
She's so much funnier once you give her a virus. You
yeah,
just say to her, I don't like your food. And she just goes, I don't like your face!
Oh yeah, how about I stop you stopping me stopping you? And then Sheffy appears again in the second chapter anyways, in a different appliance. You could...
Wait a minute. This isn't my world. Disappointed!
Okay, if you're wondering what that cut is for, guess whose laptop battery decided to give out?
It was all Sheffy's fault.
Having a fun time here at recording, and boy oh boy, you can bet editing's gonna be so fun.
Isn't it weird that we were talking about Sheffy, and then your technology just happened to turn on you?
She's a virus.
Crap, I don't know how to check my battery power now. Anyways, let's continue on. Let's see. Oh yeah, hang on. I was looking through my screenshots for quotes. Let's see here. Come on, where is it? Oh yeah, an actual quote from the main developer of this game. Of course, if you're a Baka Gaijin who doesn't Waka Rimatsu any Nihongo, then it might be a bit of a fiddly word.
Oh.
And back we go.
Oh, I didn't realize this was Sakura Spirit as well.
Time to disconnect.
One of my
from
favorite parts of this
pod.
game are the characters. All of them have really developed personalities, are just a lot of fun. Like, as we mentioned, the robot man, Liam Stepford. Go ahead and say it, Elmo. I know you want to.
Nope. Just say it, but not in the accent at all, or in a completely different accent. Oh my, yes.
Stepford is the real
three main
Texan warlord.
characters of this game are Latha, who is a trance addict, which is basically brain internet. Charlie Regis, investigator for Cell, which is basically the science police. And Max Lau, aka the best character, because she is a bisexual ex-con who gets a maid robot and is very happy about it.
I know.
She's so good. I should mention that her actress, Arlene Siegel, got some extra praise from Dave in the commentary because she spout off all that technobabble she has in the script in one take every time with no problem, despite not knowing what any of it meant.
That takes dedication.
That's just rare for voice actors.
Oh yeah.
The voice cast is generally very good. A lot of these actors get used again in Shard Lights, but like the only major one with a significant role who's been in like past games of theirs is Abe Goldfarb, who does Stepford. The
Oh my,
guy.
yes.
He's also in Charlight, but he's also been in Emerald City Confidential, which is a Wizard of Oz themed game that was originally released for phone, Primordia, and The Golden Wake. I should also mention they have one other regular actress in the game, but because she's in a Voice Actors Guild now, they can't properly say her name in the game, so she's just listed in the credits as Sino Bino, which is great. It's kind of weird that I don't think Regis's actor Eli Green has done more work, because he sounds like the kind of guy who's been in a lot of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just has that right experienced voice. He like sells his role perfectly. Excuse me. I think my favorite actor on display is Frank Totoro as Dr. Vargas, because he sounds exactly like who's that one? Ricardo Montalban. He sounds exactly like Ricardo Montalban in every scene he's in.
He sounded to me.
It's a shame
like.
I'm sorry.
To me, he sounded like I can't remember what his role in the story is. Oh, I think what is it? I think he's called Dr. Brennan in Half-Life 2. The guy who, like, when you like start up Half-Life 2, and he's like, "Welcome to City 13. You have chosen or been chosen to reload." Like that guy. He sounds to me like that guy, which is that's a good dystopian voice.
I checked IMDb, and for the most part, a lot of the actors in this game don't have much going for them, except Crystal Longquist, who does Latha. I think she's one of the weaker people in the cast,
Yeah.
was in a Metal Gear Solid fan film.
Oh. It wasn't one of the porn ones, was it? Not that I know that they have those.
Oh, but Frank Totoro actually seems to have a significant career because he's actually voiced Starscream in Transformers Combiner Wars. So, hey, he's voiced someone people have heard of.
I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine right now that Dave Gilbert still occasionally casts people in his bedroom. And, like, he, like, gets a major Hollywood actor one day for a game and just takes him to his bedroom. It's like, okay, are you ready to do some lines?
Now to record in my
Speak into my microphone. Clearly.
Let's see. I've taken a lot of notes here. Like, I think we should talk about some of the neatest little touches. My favorite is that one guy in the plant lab who's a part of a movement that gives themselves actual diseases just to stick it to their parents.
Oh.
In my notes, I've listed it as, I'm going to make myself have a mental disorder. Fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, Black Death, a classic. You're not hardcore unless you can take HIV for a month.
I give it like 4 months before the alt-right start picking that up.
Isn't that what the anti-vax
You have no idea how
all
triggered
about?
my mum was when I gave her chlamydia.
Oh, there's layers to that one.
Yeah, and I refuse to expand on it.
Oh, that one's got
You
some.
can just
It's got some levels to it.
imagine your own scenario, and then it's your fault that you feel disgusted.
Terrible.
Mm.
Yeah. That was a fun night, though.
Let's see.
That guy's just an anti-vax.
Let me take a look at what other notes I. Oh, okay. Some other significant notes. Nina did nothing wrong.
Boo.
Soylent Green is people. Max is the bisexual deviant criminal scientist and very good. Latha, please exercise or eat a hot dog or something. Have you noticed she never wears shoes in the entire game?
Oh.
How are her feet not filled with glass by the end of it?
She tiptoes around.
Let's see. Actual nuclear disasters are totally radical.
Don't forget, taxing warlords.
There's an area of the game where you go into a trance den and explore little trance areas, like a trance bar for some reason, where you can get like sulfuric acid. There's a bunch of people from Europe dancing in the lobby, and like a bunny rabbit, a stick figure, a generic avatar, and a floating head.
Oh, the head wasn't dancing. He was waiting in line for the game.
Yes,
yeah.
He hated the dancing.
Grav ball.
And just watching nukes go off is a game.
Yeah, I love Graftball because in order to beat it, you probably have to cheat by buying drugs from a street preacher.
You don't have to.
Yeah, but only if you're good. But on the other hand, it's fun to drug people.
See,
That's true.
And the most significant area of that portion is, I think it's called Nukem.
Watch
and
nukes
it's
go
run
off.
by two nerds who like experiencing nuclear explosions. And like describe this program actually simulates a bunch of actual nuclear explosions that have happened in the world. And at this point in the game, Latha thinks she's a war refugee, so she kind of takes offense and like, oh, man, those war refugees are such downers. I don't think I've ever seen such a perfect display of white privilege in my life. God.
That does remind me that At first, I kind of liked Technobabylon, and I thought, yeah, this is a pretty okay game. But if you look on the Steam discussion page, you get like 2 pages in, and there's a thread that's now locked that's just like, tricked by the SJWs again!
Mm-hmm.
And it's some guy like, I bought this game thinking it looked cool. 2 hours in, there's a gay couple? What? And it's 2 hours, so now I can't get a refund. Ugh.
The
Can't
gay
even play
couple
cyberpunk
are,
point and click games without this being shoved in my face.
But the gay couple are criminals.
Yeah. That
They're
was
like
one thing that I was
organized
having a really
crime.
hard time, because like I was talking to a friend about Technobabylon. I'm sorry to admit that I've been cheating on this podcast. I also talk to my friends about games. but I said Technobabylon, it's kind of progressive, honestly, in a way, because there's a gay couple, there's the bisexual transgender cop, who's by far the most awesome character. There's Nina mentions that she's had a relationship with a woman, but I was mentioning the gay couple, and my friend went, "Oh, so how do you meet them in the game?" And it's like, "Oh, well, there's a crime scene, and they're kind of the victims." And he went, "Oh, so it's a really progressive game because they have a gay couple that just die." And I
That
was like,
killed
"Oh
each
yeah,
other."
when you put it like that,
Yeah.
100% more dead gay people than most video games."
Edit.
I'm not sure Max is transgender. I just think
Oh no,
that
Max is.
her name is
No,
Max.
Max says at some point that she's transgender.
I might have just gotten my words horribly wrong. She says that she went to an all-boys school.
No,
and then
she's
she
and he's like,
had
Oh,
an-
I missed.
she's like, she mentions
I missed
her
that
high
line.
school, and Regis goes, "That's an old boys' school, though," and she's like, "Yep, I fit right in." And then like you can launch to a bunch of,
I completely missed that line.
and then you can launch to a bunch
I think
of.
it's you have to tell
uh,
her what the garden is for. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did do that.
Oh.
and so it.
Well, I don't know. It's a side piece of dialogue, so you probably have to talk to her a lot about.
Yeah, it comes
I
up.
remember that it wasn't an important conversation. You just chat to her about like chatting to her in the crime scene
Yeah.
about, I don't know, how do you think I get this fridge open? And then she just throws it in there.
Mhm.
It's
And then like
It's a little
you
bit
just
of sex.
launch into this whole thing about, oh wow, how was the sex change operation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I guess you, and she's like, like, why did you decide to tell me this? And she just says, well, you told me what the garden was for, so I thought I'd pay you back.
Oh.
But yeah, I guess this
I
user
didn't write notes.
never
but
got that line of
sorry.
dialogue. But they added an edit into this discussion where they say, and now I found lesbians and a gay robot. Or maybe Max is some other cringy thing they forgot.
Well, one thing's for sure, Max is not straight,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and that's good.
She's like, I can't
She's straight
wait to
on the
use this
road to
robot
being
maid.
the most awesome character.
I kind of like there's like differences in how you play each part of the game based on who you're playing as at that moment. Charlie Regis is an old man and therefore too busy yelling at kids being on his lawn to actually like get wetware and get on the interhighway of the mind. The Latha is too addicted to brain internet and is like completely useless in the real world, and all her puzzles are based about getting online to get her fix. And Max is just like actually competent, unlike the other two, and most of her puzzles rely on her doing underhanded things to figure out what she needs to do.
I like how they're all very easy to relate to, because even though the trance, the really obvious kind of metaphor is it's some kind of drug addiction, then given that the trance is like a general connectivity to the internet, then I think a lot of people who play games can think, oh, a person who spends a lot of time connected to the internet. Maybe even too much. I can relate to that. And Charlie Regis, being that I said all that things about being kind of hesitant to throw myself into a cyberpunk situation, then Charlie Regis is kind of a very old-fashioned cop who prefers doing things the old way and doesn't have time for this silly new technology. So you kind of connect to him because you're also kind of a stranger in this futuristic land. And Max is awesome, which appeals to me because I'm awesome. So really all three of them just combine to make it's a great story.
Danny, I'm kind of curious if you picked up on like any interesting thematic bits or like world building stuff.
Hmm.
There's a lot I could talk
Yeah, I'm
about
trying
in this
to
game,
trying to
just by,
narrow
like,
down
little world building
one thing to
elements.
talk about.
Oh.
The restaurant that serves human meat was very
Go on.
interesting. How it's like a niche thing, but they're like, oh, it's okay because we just clone them all. And how to find like
Oh yeah, like
and to find the guy
go
who
on.
hired the bomber, you have to abort. Like you have to literally abort a baby, and stick a tissue in there to see what the XY chromosomes are in the DNA. And it's like, okay. It was that was an interesting restaurant for sure.
I'd like to see the Yelp page of that place.
It's probably pretty good since only rich people go there and they all like eating each other.
Positives: serves cloned human flesh. Negatives: waiter literally exploded in my face.
Oh, I just remembered that if you talk to the chef at the place, it turns out he's a normal guy with an interesting backstory.
Yeah.
And he's in this exact same field as Charlie, and they both start nerding out about their work. And suddenly Charlie's not so disgusted by people eating human flesh anymore, and just like, oh, cool, I made those exact same glowing fish in college. That's just like a cute little thing they put in there they didn't have to.
Yeah.
I like it's there.
Again, one of the best piece of world building, Texan warlords. That Texas
Oh yeah,
Texas is literally run by like hyper
And
conservative
it's
Christian
the heavily
warlords
hinted
who
there.
turn kids into bombs.
Yep. But more importantly, Charlie likes Texas gumbo.
Oh yes. Doesn't
I live in Texas, and I've never heard of this, and now I want it.
Sheffy can't make them like his grandma does.
Well, Sheffy can make it, but not as good as his mother.
Mm-hmm. Eat shit, Sheffy.
Nobody makes Texas gumbo like a mother.
Texas Mumbo.
Texas gumbo. Nobody makes Texas gumbo like the Texan warlord.
Since I've played some of Wadjet Eye's other games, I noticed there's a lot of certain things they like touching up on that makes them seem to get interested in a project. And a big one is technology. It's like a major running thing in all their games. Like either the main plot is about technology impacting the world, or the world's already been impacted by it, and usually it's about how people are dealing with it. And this game most reminded me of Primordia, which is weird because Primordia is a very existential, almost nihilistic game about robots living in a destroyed wasteland, who think humans are dead gods. But it's very much about trying to figure out not what their purpose is, but who they actually are, and try to make a life out of that. And I kind of got a vibe of that in this game, with like how each of the three main characters view technology differently, and they're trying to find their own place in the world, but only Max is the one who seemed to found any balance, and the other two are in two different extremes that don't really work too well. Yes, it's an absolutely gorgeous game. I'd highly recommend it. Here. So let's go ahead and. Oh God, we never did a basic plot explanation.
Okay, try and fit an explanation of the entire plot into like 60
Sheffy kills
seconds.
everyone.
Just because that'd be interesting.
I'll just go basic. Technobabylon is about essentially two different stories. One about a girl named Lotha who gets locked in her apartment one day when she gets cut off from the trance, escapes, and then it blows, and then the room above her blows up. And the other one is about Charlie and Max trying to hunt down a criminal called the Mindjacker who literally steals the minds of people and stores them in his head. But Charlie ends up getting blackmailed by like the fetuses he had with his dead wife, and he ends up being revealed as the one who planted the bomb above Lotha's apartment, and he didn't know she was there. And everything starts to spiral from there and centers around this city controlling AI called Central, and then cyberpunk things happen.
Central did nothing wrong.
And
Central.
who did nothing wrong?
Central.
I seriously missed that. Anyways, at this point, I think we need to get into the spoilers territory because there's a lot to talk about.
Oh boy.
So, turns out the big twist I mentioned earlier in this game is that Nina Zhang is technically behind everything that happens.
Boo.
It's something the game never states outright, but if you pay attention to... If you keep in mind that she's Jinso, the person who's guiding Lotha, and remember how the supposed actual villain, Galeta, talks about Jinsol and like as some sort of puzzle piece in her own plan, it starts to become clear what's actually going on. So basically, Nina Zhang is the one responsible for Lotha and Galeta even existing, because they're technically the daughters of Charlie and his dead wife, because she cloned one of the embryos she brought for their project of creating Central, split them, and those two ended up assaulting and have been living in the city. And Nina ended up, it's implied she planted the ideas in Galata's head to try upgrading Central with the minds of countless other geniuses, and she ended up guiding Lotha in order for her to be the final piece of the puzzle to basically destroy, to release Central from its bindings and do what she wanted to do with the project in the first place, and basically create a truly free AI, not a city AI. So there are two endings to the game you can pick. One where you basically do what Nina wants, that's arguably the good ending. I think the best ending in my book, where she just lets Central free, puts up a fake Central that's not really different in any way at all to the old one. And it honestly seems like she has no ulterior motives besides she wanted to free Central. Or you can give Central control instead of doing what Nina wants, and it just brings things back to the status quo, which is questionable because of that scene with the bomber if you manage to save him. what happens in that scene is if you save the bomber, Central puts him down because it's scared of the risk he might have in the station. And that's your first big clue that, hey, maybe this Central AI isn't a good thing. Go on. Who wants to go? Yeah, I said a lot.
What endings did everyone get?
I played this game twice, and each time I picked a new ending.
I got both of the endings, but when I was playing it again with commentary on, I went for the central ending.
I'm kind of curious what happens.
There is one pretty good thing about the central ending, and that's that the downside to some of the endings is that bad guys, some of them... Okay, when I say bad guys, you have to put air quotation marks around it, because everyone has their own ambitions that are kind of understandable, except the fat warlord who literally wants to eat the poor. He's like the one character in the game who's two-dimensionally evil. But
in the central ending, you get like a scene where Nina turns informant and lets Cell catch everyone else still alive from the restaurant, which I pointed the finger at the guy who had actually done it before in the restaurant, because that's what I figured Regis would do. And then so like the warlord was still alive, and then having it's like, oh, let me pay you off, in like that cringy accent. And so, and they're just like, nah. And so they arrest them all. But Nina gets let off by Central. And so does Galatia. Is that her name? The other sister. Galata.
Nina and Galata.
Yeah. Then in the ending, Galata gets summoned to the lab where Nina and the team had made Central before. And Nina's like, yeah, we, like, Central and I were talking, and we had some plans, and we need your help. So she's like, okay, what do I need to do? And Nina's like, get in the scanner. And she's like, wait, what? And she's like, get in the scanner. So I guess it's implied that Galata was sort of sacrificed to, I don't know, change Central. Maybe it still was to free Central, because Central is in on the thing, was like, just, I like your ideas, Nina. Let's do this together and use Galata for it. That's what happened when I chose the Central ending.
So basically, what I'm gathering is
Yes.
Nina wins in both endings.
I think that's the main reason I'm not a fan of Nina. Solely because
Oh, no,
she's the only character who in both endings, she's totally fine, and she did have understandable motives, but a lot of the bad things that happen in the story are still directly due to her.
It's actually kind of interesting that you don't get to decide her fate, because really the main story isn't about her. It's about Charlie coming to terms with what's happened in his past, and trying to make a family with Latha, which was nice. But so the stuff going on in the background with Central is the more interesting element, because Central technically is one of Charlie's kids because of how it was made. So if you get the ending where you help Nina basically just lets Central go, no questions asked, and it's just like, go do whatever, go find out what you are, like any living creature does. Just don't forget me, that's all I ask. She has no evil motives. She just wanted to do something she thought was good for humanity and science on the whole. And the first thing Central does is find Galata hiding in that old trance den and asking her to help, or the not help necessarily the expose the fake Central, but for Central to find itself, which I thought was really interesting. Like, that felt like the good ending to me, because you were basically helping an actual living intelligence gain the freedom it actually deserves and start thinking about its existence, which I think is the most morally good outcome. The complicated part is, in order to get to it, you had to do what Nina wanted, and that might even include choosing to kill that Chinese warlord if you make that choice. Because if you do, she'll actually comment that you're more alike with her than she expected.
That was definitely the most difficult choice in the game for me, and it made me feel extremely petty, because first time I was playing, I was thinking, what would Regis do? Regis is a very by the book kind of cop. He chooses to accuse the person who did the crime. And to his credit, even though there's not a lot of, well, there's a lot of good voice acting in the game, but there's not a lot of focus on some of the side characters. Whoever you pick is immediately grabbed by guards and thrown out of the building. And the scream of the Counselor Man is pretty terrifying. He really nailed that one.
I picked the warlord because I always interpreted Charlie as someone who believes not in the law, because if he truly did, he'd be doing whatever Central said, and he obviously doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But instead, someone who believes in justice and the right thing. And why what the counselor did was very questionable, considering how he got there. What the other guy is already doing, has already done, and is going to keep doing, is probably much, much worse.
And there's also a link between, like, the counselor has something in his brain which means he's literally incapable of telling a lie, and he was blackmailed into placing that bomb. And you do kind of think, gee, a person in this game who was blackmailed into placing a bomb? I can't imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah, there's a lot of moral details to this game. Like, it's very realistic in that sense. I think it's trying to make a point that advancement happens regardless of morality. Sometimes something bad can result in something good, and vice versa, and you're never sure what it is. Like, everything that terrible Nina did, she is ultimately responsible for giving Charlie 2 daughters that he might have never had. She's responsible for Central eventually gaining its freedom and becoming a genuine sentient being.
It's pretty
but
rubbish
she's also responsible. I'm sorry, go.
It's pretty rubbish to give someone daughters if you don't tell them that they have daughters. You're just like, surprise! They're 20 years old and I accidentally ordered a man to try and kill one of them.
Danny, do you want to chime in on this?
I don't know. I don't have much else to say on it, I don't think.
I tend to go a little long-winded for stuff like this. Yeah, I just thought this was interesting because this is an interesting contrast to the Shadowrun games I've been playing, which are very openly about being anti-capitalist, anti-authority, questioning what you've been told. Like, there's even a major sub-arc in the Shadowrun Hong Kong about trying to deprogram a former Japanese imperialist that's, like, really well written and also really interesting because that man is also now a man-eating ghoul monster. But this game is more about individuals already living in this sort of system and showing what beauty can still result in like man's efforts to be more, to keep going forward, but also showing that it's not a clean process, and that's something you should question and find values in. And that is an interesting, really mature take on the genre. It's not like true cyberpunk, but it's very much in the spirit, and it's not just like putting on the trappings like Last Night is to say some stupid bullshit. It's actually very thoughtful, and I really respect it for that.
I really want to know, how did you two deal with the Mindjacker in the end? Because there's a choice there as well.
Arrested him.
Arrested him.
Yeah, I arrested him. But then when I played it again, I was like, you're evil, I'm gonna kill you. This isn't my canon run.
Honestly, I didn't think he was that bad a guy. The problem with him was when Baxter's incredible, endless hatred, which was suppressed by that device for so long, just exploded out when it went into his brain and basically turned him into Baxter's physical hatred. And I honestly didn't think he deserved to die for that, because really he's just by the books criminal. He's not anyone of much significance. He's just a pawn in something way bigger. I like that you keep talking to Baxter in late game without that hatred in him, and he comes off as a kind of likable, interesting, clever guy. And he's constantly aware that he hated someone, but he can't feel it. So he's questioning why that is, and it made me look at this character I was told to hate for so long and consider him as an actual person, and that's really hard to do. Yeah, this is a very good game.
Yep.
Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Shit, can I do my line?
Go for it.
I'm so excited. Okay, I can't blow it. I'm just making noises, I'm sorry. I'm not the biggest fan. I've said I'm not the biggest fan of Cyberpunk, and I was scared going into this game that it would just be a typical point-and-click story with a few futuristic words thrown in. But rest assured, this game makes it worth your time to get your Technobabylon on.
So that was the latest episode of IndieCent.
That's...
I hope you all enjoyed.
That's the smartest thing I've ever said.
Okay, let's do a sum up. Danny, what are your final thoughts?
If you like point-and-click adventure games, I recommend this one. But if you don't, I don't think this one's going to change your mind.
What if you don't like?
I don't think this one's going to make you like point-and-click adventure games.
Alright, we've heard Elmo's and Life Gush, so you know mine.
It's funny because Technobabble space sounds like the game Technobabylon.
Let's just go ahead and explain what our next game is, even though we already know what it is.
We already know.
Elmo decided to gift it to us timed, but we don't really get to these recordings on time often. So it's kind of spoiled for us, but go ahead and explain it, Elmo.
We're playing a mighty game that's number 9 in its series.
That's right, we're playing Alpha
Ronin.
We're playing the Magic Circle. I don't want to hype it up, but like I can't really hype it up to Danny because I'm still learning what Danny's taste in games is. But Dark, this might be one of your new favorite games. Might.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of the Magic Circle. That has the voice of Dr. Venture in it as a washed-up game developer who hates himself.
And it has Ashley Birch, who does the voice of Chloe in your favourite written video game, Life is Strange.
Fidget spinner, homeboy. Hello.
Are you serial?
OMG, my BFF Joe.
Oh.
Oh my god, not a goddamn one of you is gonna recognize
No, I
that
recognize.
reference. are
Nope.
you? I'm so old.
That's why I went, oh.
Well, we'll be next time. We will be back next time, not for Mighty Number 9, thank God, but the Magic Circle, which is actually interesting.
Yay!
So we'll have things to say.
You know it.
Any final words?
Hella.
Any final words? Any final words that aren't
Oh
terrible?
my, yes.
Hella.